The Young and the Restless spoilers Tuesday, update the 14th of July, 2026. Welcome back to our channel, fellow Genoa City gossips. Today is a beautiful day to dive deep into the absolute madness that is our favorite show. Grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and let's unpack everything together. Oh my God. I cannot even process what we just watched. My jaw is literally still on the floor, and I am typing this so fast because the adrenaline is just coursing through my veins after that episode. I mean, the Abbott family is finally getting a moment to breathe, but at what cost? I am literally shaking. We have been put through the absolute ringer over the last few weeks with this storyline. And I just have to say that the writers are finally giving us the emotional payoff we deserve. But seriously, can we just take a collective deep breath and process the fact that the nightmare might actually be pausing? I say pausing because this is Genoa City and nobody gets a happy ending for more than 5 minutes. Let's start with the hospital because my heart can barely take it. Jack is lying there in that hospital bed, recovering from being stabbed by Patty Williams. I am sorry, but Patty Williams is the ultimate horror movie villain of this show. After everything this psycho has done to this family, from poisoning little Summer Newman back in the day, to the whole Emily Peterson face-swapping nightmare, to the yacht incident, to now literally plunging a knife into Jack. How she's still roaming around destroying lives. But seeing Diane sitting right there by his bed, absolutely refusing to leave his side, was everything. Jack literally tells her to go get some sleep, and Diane just looks at him and says, "Try and make me leave." I mean, the chemistry, the history. Remember when they were at each other's throats? Now she is fiercely protecting him, and Jack is just looking at her like she is the only thing keeping him tethered to the earth. He tells her he doesn't want anything else but her, right? And I am just sitting on my couch sobbing because they have fought so hard for this. And can we talk about Diane's absolute feral energy, right? She is vibrating with rage, and I do not blame her one bit. She was locked in a padded cell by that corrupt freak doctor, Markham. She thought she was losing her mind, being gaslit into thinking she had a mental breakdown. So when she tells Jack that they are going to get their happily ever after, but then immediately follows it up with a dark warning that if she ever sees Patty Williams again, it is over for her. I believe her. Diane is not the same woman she used to be, but she still has that ruthless edge, and Patty better watch her back. Jack promises her that Patty will never hurt anyone again, which, let's be real, is a promise Jack cannot keep. But it was the comfort Diane needed to finally agree to go home and take a shower. Then Abby walks in to visit her uncle, and I kind of loved this scene. Abby has this very complicated relationship with her Abbott side, but you can see how terrified she was of losing Jack. But she also could not resist a tiny "I told you so" moment. She reminds Jack that she saw him walking into society with Patty and knew it was a disaster waiting to happen. I mean, Abby is not wrong. Jack was playing with fire trying to negotiate with Patty to find Diane, and he got burned. Or, well, stabbed. Jack reassures Abby that Patty is completely out of the picture now and that he and Diane are starting over from scratch. Abby just looks at him and says, "It better stay that way because we need a happy ending." Amen, Abby. We are all exhausted. But of course, when Abby leaves and Jack is finally alone, the PTSD hits. You can see it all over Peter Bergman's. Give this man another Emmy because the subtle terror in his eyes is perfection. He remembers the exact moment Patty drove that night, the shock, the pain, the betrayal. And then his mind drifts to his father, John Abbott. John is the ghost that holds this entire family together. And whenever Jack is at his lowest, he thinks of his dad. It was such a beautiful, quiet moment of reflection for a man who has just survived the unthinkable. Meanwhile, over at Society, we get a scene between Kyle and Billy that absolutely shattered me. Kyle is a complete wreck, and he should be. He just had to save his mother from a hostage situation and physically stop his father from bleeding to death. Billy looks at his nephew and tries to comfort him, telling him that the craziness is finally over and he doesn't need to worry anymore. But Kyle is traumatized. He is shaking his head, saying he isn't sure it's really over. They start talking about how much they love Jack and the sheer overwhelming relief that he is going to survive. Wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. I need to talk about what Billy said next because it is deep lore, and I love when the writers remember this. Billy looks at Kyle with so much pride and says, "You have Jack in you." He praises Kyle for stepping up, for saving Diane, for keeping Jack alive. And then Billy gets incredibly vulnerable. He admits that when John Abbott died, Jack had to step up and become the patriarch, the rock of the family. And Billy confesses that when Kyle was born, he actually felt replaced. He was the baby brother, the screw-up, and suddenly Jack had this shiny new son to pour all his love and legacy. I was screaming at my screen. That is the kind of psychological character history we have been begging for. Billy admitting his long-held insecurities to Kyle in a moment of pure trauma bonding. Masterpiece. But then the conversation takes a massive left turn, and I am suddenly terrified for Kyle. Kyle pivot straight from trauma to vengeance. He tells Billy that they are both obsessed with getting revenge on Victor Newman. And I am like, Kyle, stop right now. Billy immediately tries to shut it down, calling it madness. But Kyle is rabid. He says someone has to pay for his father almost dying. Billy tries to point out that Patty Williams is the one who stabbed Jack, and Kyle agrees she is evil, but he says the person he is really targeting is the one who orchestrated this whole nightmare. He means Victor, because Victor was the one manipulating the board, pushing Diane, causing the chaos that allowed Patty to strike. And Billy, for once in his chaotic life, is the voice of absolute reason. Billy warns Kyle that wanting revenge on Victor Newman and actually getting it are two completely different universes. He reminds Kyle that Victor's family always closes ranks around him and Victor always wins. Remember what Victor has done to Jack's companies over the decades? Remember what he is doing right now to Nikki with that shady medical power of attorney? Victor is untouchable, but Kyle is arrogant. He looks at Billy and says, "Not this time." He actually asks Billy to be his secret weapon and join him in destroying Victor. And Billy says, "No." I'm so proud of Billy Abbott in this moment. Billy admits he would love to take Victor down, but he says his family size has changed, his priorities have shifted, and he cannot go down that dark path. And we all know why. Billy is drowning in his own tragedy right now. With Sally's pregnancy, the horrific car crash, the miscarriage, Billy's a broken man trying to hold his own life together. He cannot afford to go to war with a mustache. So Kyle is going to do this alone, and he is going to get absolutely crushed. I am dreading it, but I am also totally here for the drama. Okay, back to the absolute best part of the episode. The Abbott mansion. Lauren, Ashley, and Tracy walk in, and the vibe is just heavy. Ashley, who has been through absolute hell lately, says they need to recover from this ordeal. Tracy, being the absolute angel she is, calls Jack's survival a miracle. She is so impressed with the cleaning crew for scrubbing the literal crime scene away. But Ashley is not having it. She says the house needs way more than bleach. She says it needs to be cleansed. She literally tells Tracy to go get salt to ward off the demon spirit of Patty Williams. Yes, Ashley. I was cheering in my living room, burn the sage, salt the doors, exorcise Patty from the premises. Tracy takes a moment to thank Lauren for always being such a fiercely loyal friend to Jack and the family. And Lauren gets a little misty-eyed, admitting she is so jealous of their sibling bond. She talks about how she was this spoiled, lonely, only child for so long until she found out about Jill. It was such a sweet, grounded moment between these women. They start reminiscing about John Abbott, sharing memories of their dad, and you can just feel the warmth returning to that. Tracy, ever the peacemaker and party planner, suggests they raid the wine cellar and have a proper girls' night to decompress. And then Diane walks in. I held my breath. I literally stopped breathing. The history between Ashley Abbott and Diane Jenkins is drenched in decades of pure, unadulterated hatred. They have slapped each other, schemed against each other, and tried to destroy each other's lives more times than I can count. So Diane walks in, looking exhausted, traumatized, and fragile. Tracy gently asks how she is holding up, and Diane just quietly says she survived. And then Ashley looks up. Ashley, the woman who has despised Diane with the fire of 1,000. Ashley looks at her and says, "You're home now." I'm sobbing. I am literally crying, just typing this. Ashley Abbott validating Diane's place in that house, accepting her as family after a near-death experience. It is the character growth I never knew I needed. Diane is visibly stunned. She gets completely choked up. And right at that moment, Abby walks in and echoes her mother, telling Diane she is home. Diane looks around at these women who used to be her greatest enemies, and she says, "It feels different this time." And then Diane finally breaks. The strong, defensive, manipulative Diane Jenkins just crumbles. She admits to them that when she was being held hostage in that padded room, she was so terrified. She starts crying, letting out all the fear and trauma she had been holding in for Jack. And Tracy, because she is the human embodiment of a warm hug, just pulls Diane into her arms and tells her to let it all out. It was one of the most beautiful, healing scenes this show has done. No catfights, no snark, just women supporting women after a massive trauma. Abby, trying to lighten the heavy mood, pulls out her phone and demands they all take a group selfie to send to Jack. They all squeeze in together, Ashley, Tracy, Lauren, Abby, and a tearful but smiling Diane. The episode ends back at the hospital. Jack is lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, probably still haunted by Patty's knife. His phone dings. He picks it up, opens the message from Abby, and sees the photo. His sisters, his niece, his dear friend, and his wife, all standing together, smiling, united in his childhood home. And Jack just smiled, a real, genuine smile of peace. I know it won't last. I know Kyle is about to start World War III with Victor, and Patty is probably lurking in some sewer grate plotting her next move, and Victor is still robbing Nikki blind. But for tonight, for this one episode, the Abbotts won, and I am going to sleep so well tonight because of it. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments, because I need to know I am not the only one who cried during that mansion scene.